Been a long time, but at the time he was a candidate for governor. But we have with us today Larry Sharpe. He's the National Organizing Director for American Values 2024, which was the RFK Jr. Super PAC. He's a former teacher and U.S. Marine who ran for New York governor in 2018 as a libertarian. And he's the management consultant and host of the Sharpe Way Show. So a lot going on there. By the way, that is also his website, sharpeway.com, sharpeway.com. Larry, good to see you again. How are you, friend?
I am doing well. As you can see, I'm in the White House now. I'm prepping for RFK Jr. to show up. I'm trying to make sure there's a spot for him. That's where I am right now. I see my background.
That's classic.
Trying to make sure, hey, I want to make sure my guy gets in there and does some work. That's what I'm here for.
Okay,
we're not here
well,
to play around. We got stuff to do.
You have one opportunity to sit behind that desk. Go do it real quick.
Yeah, hold on, be right
back. Okay, so what do you think is going to be RFK Jr.'s role?
Look, the reality of it is the reason why they were able to put him back into this role and get him going was really because of the health initiatives. That's what he was talking about. That's what was landing. To be forward with you, I'm going to take full credit for something right now. The reason why Trump's victory was so decisive was because RFK Jr. came aboard. The MAGA movement might have won anyway. I'm not saying he won because of that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it was as decisive because of this. What RFK Jr.'s campaign did was bring the idea that government should care about the actual family. The idea that, chronic illness is an issue in everyone's family. Everyone knows either it's themselves or they know someone they love who's part of it. And that Make America Healthy Again movement, that wasn't that. Not only did it bring people who were former Democrats into the Republican fold, it brought independents who had given up, brought them into the fold. But more importantly, it helped to close that feminism gap because MAGA can feel very masculine. But MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, feels very feminine. It brings the women in. It closes that gap. There were probably 5% of Americans who were going to vote for Bobby Kennedy Jr. That was the lowest he's polled. He polled as high as 19, but as low as 5%. That's 7 million people. Just even half of them were the ones who came over to vote for Trump. Just half. That made this victory decisive. 3.5 million people, that's the difference between winning the popular vote and not. So the health initiative is the key. He will be somewhere in the health world, is my assumption. I believe it to be true. He has 3 major things he has to work on. Number 1, breaking the hold of big agriculture on the government, that connection they have that is crushing our food system, crushing everything around us. 2, breaking the hold on big pharma that it has on government too, which again, we don't want to take away medicines. There are tons of medicines that people need, require, have to have. What we want to get rid of is the idea that the FDA and the CDC have monopoly on our health. We should be able to make decisions that work best for us when we decide so and how we decide so. And last of the 3 is the individual farmers. Our small farmers, like I live in New York State, our farmers are getting slaughtered. And it's everywhere, not just New York State, but I know it firsthand here in New York State. We need small farmers, people who want to grow, people who want to do things like farm to table, supporting local communities. We need to be supporting them, and we're not. Those are the 3 pieces he has to work on. It will be part of his health agenda. And like I said, I'm here ready, trying to get ready for it.
Good for you. This is terrific. One thing about RFK Jr. That was so amazing, when he gave his speech that he was going to support President Trump,
yep,
I think the nation heard from the first time his passion for what you just mentioned. And
yes.
It was not only significant, it was stunning.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, wow, this guy has nailed a part of our lifestyle in America that nobody dares to talk about. And he nailed
100%.
it. And I think what he did there, Larry, to kind of underscore what you're saying, and I'll say this from previous experience, but he talked to the most significant voter in America, and that was moms.
Yes, you hit it perfectly.
And when he did that, he swung a lot of people his way.
When, I saw all the time so many people who didn't necessarily like or care about Trump at all. They were either Democrats or independents who didn't care. And I would ask them, okay, why are you voting for Trump now? Like, I know you. I live in New York. Lots of people who don't like Trump, right? Lots of Harris supporters. But when they were going to vote for Trump, I asked them why. And here's what they said, Perry, and this may make you laugh, but it's true. They said, well, I'm not really voting for Trump. I'm voting for Bobby through Trump. Or not just, look, obviously I'm going to give Bobby the biggest credit, but I also want to go further. They would also say, I'm voting for Elon through Trump. I'm voting for Tulsi through Trump. I'm voting for Rogan through Trump. So a lot of people who didn't necessarily like Trump made Trump that conduit. And that's kind of how they validated making that decision that, if you go back 4 years ago, they would have never done that. This coalition, this unity ticket, which I think really began with RFK Jr., I think this coalition ticket made things change.
Do you think the FDA and the CDC are in trouble?
As they should be. So, yes, absolutely, as they should be. And the issue is, look, do I think that the individual people in the FDA or the CDC are bad people? No, not at all. I think they're people, most of them probably joined me because they were trying to make a difference, trying to do the right thing. The problem is the incentive structure. And RFK has brought this up 1,000 times. The incentive structure is support the big business that feed us. And not just that, support the big business that are now going to hire us once we quit. When you have that kind of incentive, what do you expect people to do, right? They have to feed their families. They've got to make things happen. Change the incentive structure within the FDA and it can still function. Change the incentives within the CDC and it can still function. The problem is they're not beholden to us. Perry, they're not beholden to me and you. They're beholden to big agriculture and big pharma. They should be beholden to us. If that changes, we'll have better through agencies, period. This can be a beginning that will change other agencies, too, to do exactly the same thing.
Basically, what you're saying here, Larry, is that their integrity is bankrupt.
Yes, it has to be. You can see it. You can see it. Why did they? Here's the worst part. When we had the lockdowns from the bug, what did they do? They didn't just lock us down physically. That they did here in New York completely. But they locked down our freedom of speech. Why? The incentive was to lock that down. They destroyed the First Amendment. Why? The incentive was to do so. You're exactly right. That destroys their integrity. Now, if you're such a great organization, you're the FDA, you're the CDC, you should be encouraging everyone to tell you what they think. You should be a repository for information. That's what you should be, a central part of all the information. So we can get the right thing, the best way. If we would have let local communities, which is what RFK has been talking about before, it is about medical freedom. It's not about stopping you from having this or stopping you from having that. It's not forcing you to have the one thing that government says is the one thing which is being backed directly by big pharma and big ag. That's the change. You do that, integrity restored.
You mentioned that a lot of these people in these agencies are well-meaning. I agree with that.
Yep.
But their leadership is flawed.
100%.
And so it looks like Fauci is going to go out the back door, one of the richest guys ever to get a paycheck from the government. Can he ever be held accountable for what he did?
Well, this is an issue. I would like that to be the case, but it's not my priority. Punishment cannot be our priority.
Right.
And this is a thing that RFK Jr. has brought. Bobby has brought us up multiple times. He said it. We have to love our children more than we hate each other, right? We have to do that. This has to be based on love and caring of the family first. Now, if they happen to get him, I'm not going to cry, Perry. I'm just saying, I'm not going to cry if they happen to get him. But I don't want that to be our primary issue, because if we just go for vengeance, or not that I don't want it, because I saw it destroy my city, but if we focus on that, we may miss the more important piece, which is let's not let it happen again. Let's change the culture so that all the rest of the agencies change again, so there can never be another Fauci again. That's the most important piece. So I don't want to prioritize. Bobby does not want to prioritize that. From what I hear, Trump doesn't want to prioritize that too, and I'm happy to hear that. I don't want to prioritize this in our next administration.
That's a great answer, Larry, and a very healthy one, so thank you. One other quick question before I take a break here, and that is, this sounds like I'm trying to look for revenge. I'm not. This is just a question. But the way RFK Jr., Bobby, was treated by the Democratic Party, his name is iconic with the party, and he literally showed the back door.
Yes.
Does that have any consequence?
It absolutely does. And this is the thing that the Democratic Party has made so many mistakes this year. I mean, for years, but this year was so obvious. And again, I told you how many people I meet. who are voting for Bobby now at events I go to, places I talk to online when I'm out here. The amount of people who've said the way the DNC treated Bobby Kennedy Jr. has made me never want to vote Democrat again. That has happened again and again and again. And the sad part is, if you're a lifelong Democrat, think about this. They treated Bernie Sanders like that in 2016. Then they treated Tulsi Gabbard like that in 2020. Now they're going to treat Bobby this way in 2024. For a lot of Democrats, that was the last straw. They're like, I'm done. I will never vote Democratic again. They will not. The DNC has lost a lot of its hardcore supporters, a lot of its people, and even the far left is walking away from them now after this. I mean, everyone's walking away. The DNC is in trouble. You can see it in voter registration. You can see it in how they got a shellacking this year. They are in trouble, and they're going to have to figure things out. Their authoritarianism is what has broken this. I mean, again, you and I are old enough to remember Democratic Party back in the 70s and 80s. Was nowhere near this. There used to be a Democratic Party. It used to be the Republicans who were all like, oh, shame on you, bad, bad, bad in the 70s. That's what it used to be. The Republicans who were that way. It's flipped. It's reversed. The Democratic Party is now an authoritarian party, and it has thrown so many people out. Let's not forget, Elon Musk, former Democrat, used to be a Bernie supporter. Joe Rogan used to be a Bernie supporter. Tulsi Gabbard used to be a Bernie supporter. RFK Jr., former Democrat. They've all come over because the Democratic establishment is so authoritarianism. If you aren't exactly them, you're evil.
All right, let me take a quick break. Larry Sharp's with us. He's the National Organizing Director of the American Values 2024, which was the RFK Jr. Super PAC. He has his own talk show host, The Sharp Way Show. And that's also his website, sharpway.com. There's a picture of his landing page. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And what an honor to have back with us Larry Sharp. Check out his show, The Sharp Way Show, and that's also his website, sharpway.com. He headed up the Super PAC for RFK Jr., and he was a candidate for governor in New York 2018 as a libertarian. Larry, during the break, I was trying to figure out how to ask you this question. Given the fact that you just made, you're okay, you're the man. You made the comment several times that the Democratic Party is losing because of their authoritarianism attitude and their elite attitude.
Yes.
And they took a shellacking in this last go around. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. They just flat got their hat handed back to them. I mean, this is a
100%.
This is a big loss. Do you think this could possibly be now a birth or rebirth of reestablishing self-government in America?
Well, there's some problems coming up here, right? At any time this is a change in politics now that we can see clearly. It's been happening for a while, but we can see it now. And that becomes challenging for everyone. I think America has decided that we're tired of being scolded. Please stop scolding us. Can you just stop scolding us, please?
Yeah.
We basically just said that, right? But there's a second part to this. The Democratic Party has to try to look internally. Systemically, it cannot do that. That's not what it does, right? It blames. It shames. That's what it does. They are right. They are the elite. It has become the party of the educated, meaning having a college degree or above. That's how the pollsters defined educated. Educated women. That's what it's become a party of. And that's challenging for them, that group of people to all of a sudden go, oh, okay, let's now rethink. That's challenging. Can they do it? Maybe by next year, but not right away. It's too much of a change. But the Republican Party is a problem too now. The Republican Party has become the party of everybody not Democrat. That's not easy to absorb. And the reason why I did it, as I mentioned earlier, the conduit is Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump is one person. The establishment of the Republican Party, still to this day, there's a lot of them don't like Trump at all. The establishment Republicans have always hated Trump. And there's still some left over who haven't become Democrats yet, who still don't like him. So he will still battle the establishment within the Republican Party that will not want to become this big tent party. It's a second aspect to this. The Republican Party traditionally has not been a great working class party, right? The party of George W. Bush, the party of Dick Cheney, hasn't been great at that. And they haven't even reached out. Before Trump, who came to the Bronx? No Republicans would. Republicans didn't come to black communities. Republicans didn't come to working class communities. Wasn't they did? Now they do. So now that has to be a change too. The Republican Party now has to, in itself, shift and adjust and somehow absorb all these disparate groups. and function still and somehow keep their establishment satisfied in some way, shape, or form, or remove them, which could happen also, and somehow become the part of the working class. This is a challenging thing for them to do, but I think it can be done. But here's my point. If they fail, if the Republican Party fails to adjust with this massive change, and the Democrats find their next Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, who will come in and woo everybody with massive charisma, there could be a shift right back to the Democratic Party in the next 3 to 4 years. I think that's the challenge right now. Democratic Party, if it's savvy, and I'm not sure it is, it will have to relook at itself, refocus itself, find a charismatic leader to bring people back. They're, Obama or Trump. I mean, those guys are gone, but they'll have to find a new one. The Republican Party will have to take what Trump has put together and somehow actually coalesce into something that actually works and functions. Okay. Both of those are challenging.
That's a great point. There's a couple of things here. It doesn't appear at this point that the Democrats have anybody in the bullpen, and the Republicans got a whole bunch of them.
Yes, and that's a good thing. That's good and bad, right? The Democrats not having anybody means they're open for someone to walk in, right? As Bill Clinton did, as Obama did, right? Remember, Bill Clinton is because Reagan slaughtered them. That's where Bill Clinton comes from. Reagan slaughtered them. Obama because the Bushes slaughtered them, right? So all of a sudden they come in, they start crushing things, and the Democrats fall apart. In comes their savior. So that can be a good thing for Democrats, right? That they're waiting for someone to come in and be that person. Here's the good thing of the Republicans. All these leaders, if they can coalesce, they bring all their people together. And now everyone feels heard. That's the issue. Think about it. Do you think, are the people who care about medical freedom, are they heard by someone like Vivek Ramaswamy? No, but they're heard by RFK Jr. Are the people who don't want these regime wars, are they heard by someone like RFK Jr.? No, but they're heard by Tulsi Gabbard. So each one of them is heard by someone. This is a good thing. The question is, will they coalesce? And then will Trump be savvy enough to decide who is going to keep his legacy?
Okay.
Right? There's the key. There's the piece.
Yeah, there's another piece of this, too. I think it's remarkable because you make some great points here. All those people you just mentioned on the right that connected with people, connected with the core demographic, and that was moms.
Yes.
And moms don't want boys and girls locker rooms. And
100%.
Moms don't want to have to go to the store and decide whether they're going to buy a loaf of bread or not.
Yep.
And that demographic woke up and came to the polls. And
yes, absolutely.
And they remember that what they were fighting was given to them by the Democrats, and they were lied to, and they don't like it. They're ticked off.
Well, that's the piece, right? There's a second part to politics. Obviously, politics is about your wallet, obviously. But it's also about your emotion. There are a lot of people who are like, I'm a Democrat, and that's who I am, and I'm just going to hope my people eventually do the right thing. There's a lot of those people, too. So then how can they then, in their own mind, say, I'm going to make the change? And that's where the RFK Jr. comes into play. When RFK says, no, it's okay. When Tulsi Gabbard says, it's okay. When Elon Musk says, it's okay. That's the piece that gets them over the hump. Yeah, they were already thinking it, right? They were thinking, to your point, they were already thinking it, but there's an emotional aspect to voting. That made the logic and the emotion connect. Now we get to vote.
You make a great point here, because this is the first time in my memory, in our family, we have dirty T-shirts and stitches from being in politics. I ran the party here for 4 years, so we kind of know how the game's played. Here's the point. This is the first time that I've seen a Republican go through the heart to get to the head.
Yes. And look, there's a lot of issues with Trump. I know people don't like how he speaks. I get it. The amount of people I heard in New York State when he was president who would say, I wish they'd take away his phone. I get it. But he goes right to the core. That's one thing he does do. He goes right to the core. That he does. And the thing that Trump does well is he projects strength very well. He doesn't project empathy very well. This is why when he goes to the RNC, they put him with his grandkids, because they want to show him as being empathetic also. Clearly, he's a human being. He has empathy. Absolutely true. But when he's in the campaign trail, he's got his fist in the air. He's yelling, fight, fight, fight. He is projecting strength. He doesn't project empathy very well. But you know who does? RFK Jr. Boy, does he project empathy well. That's a guy who can project empathy. And when you add strength and empathy, to your point, you go to the heart, and then it gets to the head. It works perfectly.
Yeah. So RFK wants to clean up the food supply.
Yes.
Where does he start?
I think he starts with breaking up, as I mentioned. You got to break up that connection between big agriculture and government. They are hand in hand. They are holding hands and crushing us. That's the number one thing, right? That even, believe it or not, that even goes, by the way, even into migration, because big ag wants all the migrants. It goes into all aspects of our country. Big ag is hurting us tremendously. Big ag is buying up land as it buys up so much land. Small farmers kicked out. What does that mean? Less land and more expensive for housing. It goes into everything. Big ag decides what goes on our shelves in supermarkets. So you want choices? No, big ag decides what choices you get. Oh, I don't want to. I want to be someone who wants to buy something from a local farm. No, big ag decides to make that too expensive, so you can't. Right? I want someone locally to give me my meat or my milk or my eggs or whatever the case may be. Big ag steps in and says, no. They have to spend these fees and these fines, so it's too expensive, so you can't get it. Okay. So that's the first piece is big ag. No matter what, first piece, big ag. After that, big pharma. But first is big ag. So
I only got about 30 seconds. Just quickly, how does he break up big ag? Where does he start the movement?
I think the first thing probably is the FDA. I think that's the first step, because the FDA is the one that makes the rules and regulations that crushes most of it. And not just that, some of it's all state law, but state law validates itself from federal law. So state law creates rules based off of federal law, even when the federal government can't get involved. So if you change the federal laws, you will find the states begin to change the laws also.
You're fascinating. Can we get you back?
Of course, absolutely happy to. But look, av24.org is the PAC's website. Please feel free to go check that out. You can check me out anywhere you want. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, all things. Just Google Larry Sharpe. I'm the most famous Larry Sharpe in the country, Perry.
You're the only one. I mean, who else do I interview? Larry Sharpe in a global, or in the office, the Oval Office there. So what's next for you? What are you doing?
I'm sitting here trying to build this coalition. I'm here. Let's do this. We have to change our country, man. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying since 2018. Either I'm crazy or stubborn or stupid or some combination, but I keep going.
Okay. All right. If I see you, I'll buy you a hamburger. Sharpeway.com. Sharpeway.com. That's his website, sharpeway.com. Thanks, Larry. Let's stay connected, buddy.
Have a good one.
God bless.